Hi there. Firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Paul for inviting me to contribute to the Skibbereen Speakeasy sessions. My name is Pam Lecky and I hail from Dublin. I write historical, mystery and crime. I also write short stories which vary from historical to contemporary and often throw in the odd ghost story as well. I've been an avid reader of historical and crime novels since I was quite young, so it was inevitable I'd end up writing in these particular genres. However, I began my writing career quite late, publishing my first novel when I was 50, thereby proving it's never too late to start. I'd like to read a short extract from No Stone Unturned, which is the first book in my historical mystery series. This is the book, and I'll just read what it's about. London, October 1886. Trapped in a troubled marriage, Lucy Lawrence is ripe for an adventure. But when she meets the enigmatic Finnehy Stone of the body of her husband in the mortuary, her world begins to fall apart. So I'd like to read you an extract from the very start of this book. A few minutes later, there was a tap at the door, and a tall gentleman appeared in the doorway. Well dressed in a perfectly tailored Ulster coat of superfine black wool, glossy topper and finely crafted leather gloves, the man had a distinguished air. Striking more than handsome was her assessment of him. Surely he was someone you were more likely to see at Ascot than a mortuary, she thought. But then mortuaries were not her usual choice of places to visit either. Perhaps he was here to identify someone too. Much to her consternation, he flicked a glance at her before greeting the superintendent by name. In that moment she had been assessed and dismissed. It was an uncomfortable sensation, and for the first time since she arrived, Lucy suspected she was out of her depth. The newcomer stepped further into the office. "Mr. Stone, you didn't waste much time," Hendrik, the supervisor, said, sitting back in his chair. "Vine Street notified me about Lawrence. Has there been a formal identification of the body yet? The police indicated it would happen today." Lucy smarted at his words, now well disposed to dislike the stranger who dared to use such disparaging terms about her Charlie. Hendrik stood up, glancing apologetically at her. "No, not yet. This is Mrs. Lawrence. She only arrived a short time ago." He turned to Lucy. "Mrs. Lawrence, may I present Mr. Stone? He is an insurance investigator." By his tone, Lucy guessed he did not hold Mr. Stone or his occupation in high esteem. The newcomer approached her, taking off his hat to reveal slightly curling ebony hair. Mr. Stone gave her a nod of acknowledgement, but there was no hint of apology for his previous discourtesy. Instead, he subjected her to another scrutiny that verged on rude. There was something extremely arrogant about the man, she decided, and a tiny bit scary. With a curt nod, she looked away, but she was curious to know why an insurance company would be interested in her Charlie. Of course, the only explanation for all of it was that there was another Charles Lawrence running around London up to no good. That must be it. However, Lucy's heart began to pound. Letting out a slow breath, she returned to her survey of Mr. Hendrick's document filing cabinets, determined to ignore this Mr. Stone and his unsettling gaze. "Mrs. Lawrence believes her husband is in Scotland, so I thought it best she examines the personal effects first, rather than the remains," Hendrik said to Mr. Stone. "He is definitely in Edinburgh," Lucy piped up. "There has been a mistake." Mr. Stone exchanged a doubtful glance with the superintendent. "I'm happy to await the outcome in any case," Mr. Stone remarked. Then he took the seat opposite her. Now fuming, Lucy just knew he assumed she was lying. She clasped her hands in her lap and prayed the nightmare would end soon. What had seemed a bit of an adventure was now taking on a different tone. and she was all too aware of being under the watchful eye of the insurance man, who seemed to be perfectly at his ease, resting his gloved hands on the top of his cane. "Ah, Angus," Hendrik said, as a small dark-haired fellow entered the office carrying a box. "Leave it on the desk." He turned to Lucy. "Mrs. Lawrence, would you care to inspect these items for me?" Lucy took a deep breath to steady her nerves as she rose from her chair. This was merely a formality. Soon she'd be on her way home. Mr. Stone stood too, but somehow she sensed it wasn't merely manners, but curiosity. He stepped closer to the desk, his gaze moving between her and the box. She willed herself not to react, no matter what was in it. The cardboard box contained a monogrammed handkerchief stained with blood, a card case, and a hunter watch. Lucy could not look away, as numbness suddenly shrouded her senses. Each and every item in the box was familiar to her. "Please, Mrs. Lawrence," Hendrik said, gesturing towards the items, "could these be your husband's?" "But it cannot be," she told herself over and over, as she reached out and picked up the card case. She ran her fingers over the delicate filigree decoration. She had been with Charlie the day he bought it. She slipped open the lid. Charlie's cards. Swallowing hard, she placed the case back in the box and took up the watch. Flipping it open, she saw the crack in the glass. The watch had stopped at 1:35. She turned it over and gasped, even though she knew what she would find. There was a dent in the metal plate, but the inscription was perfectly legible. "To dearest Charlie, on our wedding day, love, Lucy." Thank you so much for listening. All my books are available on Amazon as ebook or paperback. Or if you'd like to know more about them, please visit my website at www.pamlecky.com. Thanks again.